Mr. Transformers 96 here in the video, where I'm going to be doing another top 5 dream figures from the Transformers Studio Series line. So now I've already done a video like this, but this is like a kind of a first time for me because I've never done a top 5 dream figure list and have just about all of them be made by the company, and therefore be able to make another top 5 dream figures, because really all of my top 5 ones the first time were taken. So this is really cool. I couldn't be any happier with the Studio Series just as a series in general. I think they're producing some great figures, and better yet, they're producing some fantastic characters. Really the characters that I want to see get made. And that doesn't happen a whole lot because I am very much into villains. I've always have been, and sometimes I'm into really obscure characters and villains and things like that, and those are usually the ones that get left behind. But with this series, they are doing more obscure characters, they're doing villains galore, and they're doing it from all the movies, which is really cool. So literally out of my top 5 last time, they have made, with the announcement of Shockwave, they have officially made 4 of those 5. My number 5 choice on the last list that I did was the only one that they haven't done yet, which does make it on this list again. I am hoping that they do finally make that one eventually. But because of that, I've had 4 more spots that I could fill up, and there are definitely more Transformers figures that I want to see get made. However, they've made a whole lot of the ones that I've wanted for sure. So I've kind of I've resorted to having to really think about it as far as the other ones that I want to get. But like I mentioned, I'm a big villains fan, so all of these are going to be Decepticons on this list, to be honest. As far as Autobots go, they always make the Autobots, and they're pretty good, and there's a bunch of different versions of all the Autobots and things, so with the Autobots, for me personally, I'm pretty good on. Dino's the only Autobot that they haven't made that I'd like to see them make. However, I bought a third-party Dino that I absolutely love, so personally, I don't need a Dino figure, I have one, but that's like the one kind of Autobot that I think Hasbro needs to make eventually. But for right now, these are my choices for my top 5 dream figures for the Transformers Studio Series to make, and they made my entire list the first time, basically, so I'm hoping they make this list again. I will say, just by coincidence, because I am going through all 6 movies, Transformers 1 through 5 plus Bumblebee, and I didn't mean it to happen like this, but literally on this list, I have picked one figure from each of the movies, and you might be a little confused because this is a top 5 list and there's 6 movies. However, there was one spot that I did combine 2 on, and it just so happened that it was the 2 that I didn't, the 2 movies that I hadn't done before. So honestly, this list comprised of a different character from a different movie, and I didn't intend it to be that way. It just happened that way, which is kind of neat. It's pretty diverse. So let's get into it with my number 5 choice, and that's going to be from Age of Extinction, and it is Galvatron. Here we are. Galvatron is a character that they have made a figure for before. However, it's not a great figure. Age of Extinction is probably the worst toy line from the whole Transformers series, and they made a decent amount of characters. However, the figures just were not great. They were okay. They weren't like horrid, but they definitely weren't great, and Galvatron is one of the worst of them, I think. The paint is rather dull on him, and then he's a complete shell transformer. His entire vehicle mode just sits on his back, and then he has just a very flat physique on the front, which is all just hidden inside the vehicle instead of actually transforming into the vehicle. So he's just the worst kind of transformer as far as the figure goes, and definitely in need of a new figure. I did make a custom Galvatron, but I really just focused on the paint. I completely updated the paint, and now I have a Galvatron that looks awesome paint-wise. However, sculpting-wise, I definitely want a new one without a backpack, because Galvatron actually did look pretty cool, especially when you go back and look at some images of him. He's actually, he has a striking figure. He looks really neat, so I definitely would like to see... sorry, that was a notification. I definitely would like to see a new figure be made of him, in particular, that actually transforms instead of just transforming inside the vehicle. So yeah, definitely would in need of a new updated figure for Galvatron. And I also would like to see him in the leader class. I'd be okay if they did a Voyager. It wouldn't be the end of the world. I think Voyager is an okay scale for him, but it would be cool if he was a leader class. My number 4 choice has to be Blitzwing from the Bumblebee movie. I'm surprised how little they're doing for Bumblebee. I think the Studio Series line is really supposed to be the old Michael Bay kind of movie Transformers that they're going back and doing. However, this is the line that they kind of folded the Bumblebee movie line into, and they just didn't make very many Bumblebee figures. They made a Bumblebee, and then they made two versions of Dropkick and one Shatter, and that's it. And there's a lot of characters that they could do. Blitzwing is definitely by far the one that I think they should do, because so far all the figures that they've done for the Bumblebee line have been deluxe scale, so it'd be nice to get a Voyager in there. This would obviously be a Voyager size figure. I think that he's got a very cool look. Blitzwing is making, sorry, not Blitzwing, Blitzwing's a character. 3A is making a figure of him, which just looks fantastic in both of their scales. So it'd be really cool to get a one of from Hasbro. I definitely would like that. And then as far as they have a ton of other figures they could do. Soundwave and Shockwave were close to making it on this list, but they didn't. However, those would be the ones that I think that would be great to get from the Studio Series as well. So I think the Studio Series is kind of neglecting the Bumblebee movie, and I definitely would like them to go in and do a few more characters, because I love their focus on Michael Bay Transformers. You know, I think that's really cool, and it's great because I had given up hope on a lot of those. With the Bumblebee, I haven't quite given up hope on because the movie's still fresh, but it would be nice for them not to neglect this line in favor of the old ones. And then my third choice, this is the one that I'm kind of combining two characters because I think they should be released together. And, you know, I don't know if there would be any difficulty in releasing these two characters together, but I think there should be a deluxe package that includes a small version of Frenzy as well as Mohawk. I don't need them to be in complete scale, because if they were in complete scale, they would be very tiny. However, I think that a deluxe version of the two of them, about half the size of a deluxe figure, more in kind of that scout class scale, I think would be really nice. Frenzy we've had figures for in the past. We've never had a figure of him alone, though. Usually he's just included with a barricade figure, and he's just a very small, non-transformable, really non-posable figure, and he's just extremely basic. I'd like something a little bit more complex. I think that the issue with Frenzy is how do you get that thing to transform into anything that actually looks like anything? Because he does transform into several things in the movie, but really just based on his physique, I don't quite see how you can make a toy that you can transform and make it look like a boombox or a cell phone, and not have the robot mode look totally inaccurate. So this is a hard one to crack, I think. But to be honest, I really don't care about the alt mode. They could have it transform into something that's similar, or you can call it his entry mode into the atmosphere, and have him transform into something that we never actually see, similar to what they did with Rampage and things like that. So I definitely would like to see a nice Frenzy figure, because in my opinion, we really don't have a nice Frenzy figure. And then the next one would be Mohawk from last night. This is a character that was one of the few, if he might have actually been the only Decepticon that is like a new character from the last night, that is a completely new mold, that doesn't reuse its parts from any other Decepticons from any other movie. And I really definitely want a Mohawk figure. I've made customs of all of the last night Decepticons, and I'm really happy with all of them except for my Mohawk, which is why the other ones like Onslaught and Nitro Zeus and things didn't make it on this list. I would like a Hasbro version of them, but to be honest, my custom ones I'm really happy with personally, so I'm not like dying for one. It would be cool, but I'm not dying for it. With Mohawk, my custom one that I did was fun and it was nice, but it's definitely not super accurate, and I definitely want a super accurate one. And there's some third-party companies that are making Mohawk figures that look wonderful. So I know Hasbro can do it. They can certainly do it and have him transform, because I've seen other companies do it, and he looks really good. So I definitely would like a Mohawk figure. And I think that, Mohawk on his own, without making him totally out of scale and making him a deluxe figure, there isn't any other smaller class for the Studio Series other than deluxe. So I think that's why giving you Frenzy and Mohawk together in a smaller scale, but still in a deluxe package, would be a nice compromise, and I definitely would like to see that. It would be cool if they did some sort of like companion pack which is like a 5-pack or something, and it has like Frenzy and Laserbeak and Ravage and Mohawk, maybe Scorponok. That would be really cool if you got like the whole bit. But to be more realistic, I think Frenzy and Mohawk in a package together would be very cool. My second choice is going to be from Dark of the Moon, and this is my one choice that was on my list previously that they haven't made yet, and that's Hatchet. He's one of the Dreads, obviously. In the Studio Series, they have made the other two Dreads, being Crankcase and Crowbar. Hatchet has never been made. Even from the original series, there's no figure of him. I definitely would like to see this guy be made. I've seen some third-party companies making him, and he looks really cool. And he's a character that had decent screen time. Like, most of the Decepticons are blink and you miss. This guy, obviously he doesn't speak because he's more animalistic, but he definitely has a fight sequence, and we see his death and everything. So I definitely would like a figure of him, especially just to complete the Dreads team. It's really hard to have the two Dreads without the third, and it's been like that since 2011. So I'm very much hoping that we do get a Hatchet figure, and based on the fact that they've done the other two so recently, I would assume they definitely have it on their radar to do the third one and complete the set. So I definitely would like to see that happen. And my number one choice comes from Revenge of the Fallen, and this is actually a surprising choice in my mind. However, it's the character that I think needs an update the most and deserves it the most, and that's going to be the Fallen from Revenge of the Fallen. Basically, the main villain from that movie. The main antagonist. He's got a very unique look to him. I actually do like his look. He was a character that he was fine when the movie came out, but I was definitely more interested in the other Decepticons that were shown, like the Constructicons and everything. Now with Hasbro making all the Constructicons, I really, they're off my list, so I kind of move into some of the other characters that I don't think of right off the bat. And I think that the Fallen definitely needs an updated version, because the figure himself had a nice size. Like, for a Voyager, he's pretty big. However, the figure is just needing of an update. The legs are okay, but I don't like the kind of spring-loaded toes. It makes him very difficult to stand, and if you pick him up and then put him back down, he's annoying to get standed again, which is a shame. His arms aren't great and have a weird look to them, especially with the way that they slim down when it comes to the elbow. And then he has these weird, like, translucent red pieces all around him that can fold up, that are just kind of strange. And the coloring is okay. It's this weird, like, bluish gray, which doesn't quite match the movie. He's a very odd mix. And also, he doesn't have any of the turquoise blue highlights that the one in the film had. So I definitely would like to see the Fallen get remade. I think that he is the most deserved of a remake, because the original one is definitely outdated and can be remade very easily, as well as he's not in a great scale. I think that the Fallen needs to be in a leader scale. Like Galvatron, it would be cool if he's a leader scale, but I'd be okay with him as a Voyager. I think that's fine. But the Fallen here, I think, kind of needs to be a leader. The Fallen figure is basically on the same par as the Shockwave figure is. A figure that the original one's okay, but it could definitely use a redo, plus in a larger scale, and that's exactly what I'd like to see here. As well as we never see the Fallen's alt mode, so they could have him transform into the most Cybertronian, unrecognizable thing ever, and it wouldn't matter. Therefore, they could make a really good looking figure, because obviously they don't have to worry about the alt mode very much, and then they can just focus on the robot mode, and they just kind of make whatever they want to with the alt mode. So they could make a really movie accurate Fallen figure. So I'd love to see that. So again, to run down the list, we have from Age of Extinction, a Voyager class or leader class Galvatron. From the Bumblebee movie, a Voyager class Blitzwing. From Transformers 1, as well as Transformers The Last Night, a deluxe scale pack with Frenzy and Mohawk, with the two figures being about a Scout scale. Then a Dark of the Moon Voyager scale Hatchet. I would be okay with a deluxe one as well, but he is a little large, so I think that he'd do well as like a long haul style Voyager, where he is a Voyager, but he's a little bit small for a Voyager. I think that would be a good scale. And then a leader class Fallen. So there you go. That's my thoughts on what my kind of dream top 5 figures would be from the Transformers Studio series going forward. Again, they've made so many of the figures that I have wanted them to make forever, and the fact that they're making the entire Constructicon line, all 8 figures, some of them weren't even featured in the movie, and they're making them all, is just mind-blowing to me. If you told myself that would be happening a few years ago, I wouldn't believe you. So I'm very happy to have this line actually be active and happening, and kind of making all my Transformers figure dreams come true. So we'll see if they make my next 5 dreams come true, but they certainly made my last 5. So let me know what you guys think of my choices. I'd also love to hear what your guys' choices would be for the studio series, and thanks so much for watching.